All right, guys, welcome. To my far right is Seth, who you may know as Soul to Soul. And to my immediate right is the famous Drake Ramberg of Nike. And we appreciate having him here for this episode. I'm Bijan. You guys may know me as Dr. Swish. But first, to start this episode, we'll have Seth give a little introduction. If you're not familiar with Drake, you should be, but he'll give you a little synopsis real quick of what Drake's done for Nike.
Absolutely. So basically, Drake, lifelong Oregonian, joined Nike back in the day, 1987 or so. Drake is a 37-year veteran. Congratulations on your recent retirement from Swoosh brand and to the next endeavor. Basically, Drake has had a hand in a plethora of projects over the years, including most notably many Nike soccer jersey designs, and equally importantly, and that would be the core of today's conversation, the Flight logo, which for me personally strikes a chord because growing up, Billy Hoyle, White Men Can't Jump, Sidney Dean, that is a cultural moment for sports history and apparel and graphic design. So we're going to spend some time today talking about Drake's, Flight logo.
How high could
But
you jump when you were younger, Seth?
not that high. Yeah, I'm not Brent Berry. I was more of like Mark Price, if I could even get airborne. But
Bunny from the free throw line.
yeah, but nonetheless, we're very happy, to have Drake with us today. Drake is a very humble legend. He's a brand ambassador, master storyteller and leader and a voice. And we're just very lucky and fortunate and happy to have Drake here today with some vintage gems from my collection and also some from Bijan's collection too, as Drake has had a hand in many projects over the years. So that's my intro for Drake, and we'll talk more and let Drake talk as well.
So before we do that, let's talk about what shoes we're wearing today. So Seth, why don't you go first? What shoes do you have on your feet?
Sure. What do I have today? I actually have a non-Nike pair. This is, one of my, daily beaters, but a gift from, Aaron Cooper, the QLZ 24/7. It's, very Wilson Smith air flare kind of design. It's a great, on foot comfortable model. It's designed for basketball, but that's what I'm wearing today, and it's part of my regular rotation.
So I think it's probably the best non-Nike shoe in the last 10 years. It's a beautiful design. But I am primed like Cooper's design because of the 90s. So, it's there. It's also very comfortable. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's my on foot choice for today.
Say hi to Aaron for us. There we Okay, Drake, what do you got on your feet?
Adidas Gazelles.
There.
All right, sorry, had to throw that in. No, I'll never wear Adidas. Sorry, for 37 years with the Nike brand. I'm representing with Air Max ones. I love the kind of retro Air Max shoes from that era, late 80s, early 90s, Max 90s, PWs, all those kind of shoes. But yeah, I just love the clean look of them, and they've done a lot of nice updates and retros of those, and comfortable and stylish, if I may say so. So that's what I'm rocking today.
They are beautiful. And then on my feet, I have also a classic Air Max, the 97 metallic gold. So I love the silver bullets, but I actually like the metallic golds a little more because they're a little less common, in my opinion. I don't see them as often. So I love the metallic golds.
Great Christian Tresser design.
Yes, yes. So Drake, you're an amazing artist. I've seen some of your paintings and drawings and sketches that you've posted, and you're obviously very talented. So what is it that inspired you to get into design? Was it the sketches or was it something else? And then how'd you get started with Nike?
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. I mean, this is amazing. I just love talking about Nike and love the brand for 37 years. But I got my start. I grew up in Oregon and was into art from an early age. Loved sports. I mean, I spent many a day just coloring and painting and drawing athletes and my beloved Trailblazers or Oregon Duck players. And so this kind of combination of art and sport was just kind of pulsing through my veins from the very beginning. And when I went to school, I went to Portland State, was a fine art major. No idea that there was even a career in doing design. I mean, I started taking a little bit of design courses in my junior and senior year at college because I thought, all right, you can either go down the path of a fine artist, show my work gallery or museum, and hopefully somebody buys it. And I just thought that's not gonna be a livelihood that I can sustain. And so I just started thinking, boy, I need to get into more commercial art at the time. Started taking classes in that kind of graphic design world. But again, the computers weren't really even aboard as a technology or a tool at that point. We're talking like 85, 86. And so bottom line is when I got out of school with my bachelor's of art degree, I was like, okay, I need to find a job here. And luckily for me, Nike was right in my neighborhood. I went to Tigard High School, Beaverton High School, or Beaverton, where Nike was, is just next suburb over. And I applied there. I got rejected. For all of you that have been rejected, I know how that feels, but luckily my resume made it to the leader of the art department, Angela Snow, and she brought me in for an interview. And I brought in my portfolio of a big old leather case back then with a bunch of my school projects as well as some early artwork that was kind of my idea of what could be cool graphics and T-shirts for Nike. Yeah, she took a chance and hired me on as a freelancer. That was in 1986, and then I got hired on as a full-time designer in apparel as a graphic designer in 1987, and I was there ever since until just this last December when I retired at the end of December.
So would you say that was your first big break at Nike, or was there another moment that you can think of that?
That was the initial big break that I was able to join Nike at a time where they were still in their infancy, pretty much in apparel, especially, and where at the time was in a different building across town in Beaverton. Apparel was in one place. This was before the World Campus was there, and so we kind of were working parallel and separately, but each had our areas of focus. At that time, I was working on T-shirts a lot. I got assigned to Force, Flight, and Air Jordan at the time. Late '80s. Those are our big three pillars, and that was kind of my knowledge and interest in basketball helped because I always grew up with basketball hoop in my backyard or in the driveway. And my brother and I would always be out there playing basketball. So we'll talk into some of the kind of more specifics about some of the products that I wore and what I got to use some of my design work towards. So that'll come later. But yeah, that's how I got my big start.
Nice. Now, one thing I remember seeing you talk about maybe in one of your posts was that you said you wanted your uniforms and your styles to make the athlete appear or feel like a superhero. So can you kind of talk about how you did that and how you came up with that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout my career, and I think we're all as Nike designers and Nike product people, it's understood that these athletes are bigger than life. They're not your average citizen walking around, and they're on a world stage. Whether it's the Olympics, the World Cup, NBA Finals, whatever it may be, and so you shouldn't be bashful about what you're designing for them, whether it's the footwear or the uniforms. They should be bold and bigger than life, not something that you think about like, well, they're going to wear that on the street and it's got to be kind of like more conservative. No, it needs to be representative of their sport and the performance needs of their sport. But bold colors, bold graphics, and especially at that time, late '80s, early '90s. I mean, color was off the charts. A lot of purples and pinks and blues, and you look at our ACG product at the time wasn't bringing brown shoes to the brown shoe market. Even the early, waffle racers and running shoes. I mean, they were pinks and greens and purples and crazy colors. And that's what Nike was bringing to the market. We weren't bashful about color. And so I think all through our history, it's always been about, doing stuff for an athlete that's not just your average athlete, although that's the target consumer for a lot of it. But we're looking at the pinnacle athlete for the most inspiration. And so I think why so many of these designs are beloved today is because we weren't trying to be conservative or careful. We were just like going with our guts and doing some product that we just thought was going to be just in your face, bold, irreverent. Irreverence justified was kind of the theme, and that was our approach. And now you look 20, 30 years later, and that's why a lot of this product is just like loved because it's just so bold and cool.
So what were some of your favorite shoes growing up?
Yeah, the have this Bruin right here, which was actually it kind of brings me back because my first basketball shoe, again, growing up in Oregon, Nike was just in its infancy in the late 70s, early 80s, and actually my first basketball shoe was the Chuck Taylors, and oh my gosh, those had no cushioning and no support, canvas and slippery outsole,
Our classic.
and they were great at the time, and but I was so proud when I got the first Nike basketball shoe, the Bruins. They were all white leather with like a navy blue swoosh. I think I might have had a pair that had the black swoosh, but they were clearly a step above the beautiful Chuck Taylors. So really proud to wear those, and just classic styling. And yeah, I played basketball, like seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade. Eventually, just like Michael Jordan, I got cut from I think my freshman basketball team. But yeah, I didn't go on to the history. Yeah, the sport. Yeah, I ended up kind of moving more into soccer, which was kind of more in my lane. Because yeah, talking about white men can't jump. I mean, yeah, that was me. But yeah, I was a point guard, had an amazing time, but rolled my ankles quite a few times as well. So that's where I was like, get away from this. I still played a lot of basketball on my driveway with my brother, but yeah, moved into more in the soccer lane after a while.
So this version of this shoe is actually Nike SB, so it's gone into the lifestyle, as we all know. It's a cool version of metallic gold with the snake print on the check, so it caught my eye. I've had them probably for 10 years or so, just laying around. Okay, what are some other favorites that you have?
Oh boy. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, a lot of the Air Max product. Yeah, I've always been drawn to the basketball shoes, some of the ACG product, the Moabs. I mean, it's crazy because I was sample size and there was always samples laying around the hallways. And so, I went through more Jordans. I mean, because I did still continue playing basketball. There was I don't call it basketball like intramural kind of league at the campus, and I played for a team there with some of my colleagues. And but yeah, I was always given like a fresh pair of Jordans to wear, Jordan ones, twos, threes, fours, all the way up. And usually, since I was sample size, it was awesome to just get a fresh pair. But they'd wear out, and I just would toss them. And again, when we were back in the day, early 90s, we weren't thinking ahead like, oh, these are going to be great, to worth a bunch of money someday, right? That you're just like, okay, well, they're worn out, time for another pair. And it was never even a question because I either get them free or I can get them for a good price at the employee store. So I wasn't like going, well, I better save these.
Yeah, and in the 80s, the skateboarders would buy all the Jordan 1s because they were on clearance because they were excellent skate shoes. That's why the Dunks were so popular. Yeah, I mean, they were skated to death and thrown away.
Did you prefer low or high? I remember the Bruin, I believe, came in different cuts. Just as an aside, Drake, when you played ball back in the day for ankle support and protection, did you prefer a lower cut, or what do you remember wearing at that time?
Well, you guys tell me, you probably know something better than I do because the Blazer was to me the Bruin, like a high version of a Bruin, right? Was there a Bruin high as well? I don't remember. Yeah, so I mean, Blazer was basically the same shoe except for a high version of it. I think I wore some of those too because, like I said, I had ankle issues, so that was a great alternative. But these were warm for street, warm, all day at school, and then you can play basketball in them as well.
And they made an Air Max version of the Bruin that actually, I believe, was the first Nike ID.
Oh,
which Aaron Cooper was somehow involved with. I remember him telling the story.
That's awesome.
You like the Maestro too, if I remember right.
Yeah. The what?
It's up here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we'll get into talking about my contribution on that one, but Yeah, I mean, loved all these basketball shoes back in the day. I might have had a pair of these. Don't recall. I've went through so many shoes over the years.
Nice. Okay, cool. So to switch it up, let's continue. And next question: how many pairs do you currently own, and what is the Ramberg collection look like currently? Can you tell us a little bit about the range and the assortment that you have currently? So, how
My
many
God, I
pairs
mean,
and what does it look like?
it's disgusting. I have boxes in the garage. I've got uh, several closets filled with shoes. I'm still see a new shoe, or shoe on Nike.com or at the toy store. And I still buy them. Not like I need it. You don't need another pair of shoe, but you got to have it. And that's because I love the design work and all that. So, I mean, I must have several hundred pairs, all together. Yeah. What was the other part of the question?
What does it look like? So you have samples you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was samples that I picked up along the way. I do have several boxes of stuff because in the early 2000s, I was a color designer in footwear in sport culture at the time, and it became Nike Sportswear. And we did a lot of the limited edition vault product. And so my job was to, as we kind of retro those, bring them in fresh colors, materials, graphics. And so that's where my graphic design skills combined with my understanding of color, was fantastic to jump over from apparel into footwear and learn the art of, coloring the shoes, understanding the materiality of them, and work closely with some of the footwear designers on that stuff.
There's a good example in front of us, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one here, yeah. So we had time in sportswear, we had sports inspired, indie, urban, and metro were the four kind of pillars in that. And this was from the indie line, which was a lot of collabs going on at the time. Um, you know, uh, what was talking about the laser one before Mr. Cartoon, the whole laser thing was coming on. And then we would do some of these kind of collabs. I remember getting some line art to work on this shoe. I'd never been to Days Quality Meat. I didn't really know much about it, but I was working with Jesse Leva at the time, and he had built relationships with a lot of these sneaker boutiques on the East Coast and the West Coast as well. And I remember seeing kind of just some hand colored line art of the shoe with in the brief or the direction was to make it look like a piece of meat. So all these colors were, reds and browns and flesh kind of colors. And so my job was to help kind of figure out the blocking of it and also figure out what Nike colors were a good match for what was on the line art. Isn't you can't make a product until it has a Nike color call out so that the factory can get it made properly. So yeah, I remember working on this baby here. And of course, at the time, didn't know it was going to be such a huge collector item. Yeah, it was just one example of many of the shoes I got to do color design work for back in the early 2000s.
Did you do the cartoon Air Forces also?
Yeah, I mean, it was great because that was a time where laser technology on footwear was kind of this new world that was opening up as a way to do graphics. I mean, we'd always done embroideries and sublimation and things like that, but to be able to laser was like, oh wow, we got leather. Leather takes laser really well.
And I like when the cut gets deep enough and I can show the color, so it gives you some contrast.
Because you all different heights of the laser. So we invested big time, especially in the sportswear space, in that laser technology. Worked with our factories to invest in that machinery as well. And then, yeah, the leading edge, of course, was to work with people like Mr. Cartoon and other artists and collaborators to take those that technology, match it up with some amazing graphics, and then apply it to products. So, those artists were the actual designers or the artists on it, and then my job was to figure out kind of the color block in the shoe. What is the right color of the material? Is the substrate? A lot of those were kind of like a white or beige or tan or brown kind of colorways. But, yeah, that was exciting to be a part of it. And when we saw this new technology kind of coming aboard, and how do we, apply it in a fresh way? And I think Nike, I don't know if other brands were doing it at the time, but we were kind of the leading edge in that kind of space for a while.
And I love laser. That was like when I was in the kind of that peak of collecting was laser era. So I love laser. I have so many. I mean, this shoe just happens to be right behind me, you know. So might as well
Yeah.
take it out. It's
Mhm.
cartoon.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
The Live Strong version of the cartoon.
Wow.
That's why I asked if you designed
Live
those. So
strong. No, poor Lance. That whole thing.
I love that
Boy,
shoe.
that is like
The webbing is great. The spider web at the toe box.
A little aging. It's a little aging, but they look
wow.
good. I love that shoe.
What year was this?
He's like 08, I think.
Well, yeah.
Like that. The original was 05.
I like
The
to
three
hear
the three cartoons were 2005. They had the Cinco de Mayo, which was like the Mexican flag colors. They had the ones that were inspired to be like the Cowboys, which was navy and gray, which is what this one's modeled after. And then there was the Brown Pride, which was khaki and brown. All of them had their own inspiration that cartoons talked about a lot of times. But this version was the Livestrong. So as part of the Nike's charity, they did these. They took some famous sportswear designs like the cartoon Air Force One, the Flaum Dome, some of these big models, the Busy P Air Force One. Yeah, just ironic that you brought that up. You're sitting behind us.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome.
You know, if I may, one of our friends of the channel, Brian Apodaca, is a huge fan of laser. And we talk about Chris, remind me of his name again? Mark Smith, Mark Smith. And then we have Lundy, Chris Lundy. Is that correct? Right? So, Drake, by chance, do you know of these designers? Is there any, memory of the past when, did you know Mr. Smith or any of these guys? If you maybe a quick memory that you
Yeah, I mean, he got hired a year or so, I think, after I did. And he was hired as a apparel graphic designer at first. And I think he'd worked, if I remember, like some surf or skate brands out in LA, maybe Mountain Suns, or can't remember which brand. But anyway, he kind of came from that culture, had a great portfolio of work. And I think over time, 1990, I headed over to Europe to work on global football. And so kind of he went his direction, I went mine. And, obviously, eventually he kind of landed more in the footwear space and kind of connected a bunch with Tinker and started working on some special projects and stuff. But yeah, there was many, many years where kind of paths were crossing, but we kind of big place. We started kind of going our different directions.
Yeah, the Jordan 20 was a big thing. The lasering 2005 was that era.
All that.
Mark Smith did the lasering, and they did a story. Tinker did an interview talking about how each picture on the strap meant something, and Mark turned it into a beautiful design. I love the 20 personally.
What's your favorite 20 colorway since we're talking about the
Stealth, the black stealth is the best. If we're not talking about like EEs and samples, the release ones, yeah. But I also love the Ray Allen colorways. I watched Ray Allen play live in the Midwest green version. It was like the Midwest version, but it was green for Seattle. So that's probably my favorite E colorway, but my favorite release was the stealth.
See, now we're getting into Pandora's box and you start digging. Drake, just one more question since we're talking about laser etching, and that's a huge collection purpose entirely. Do you have any laser in the collection by chance or anything that
I'd have to look? I mean, I have boxes in the garage. I mean, I thought I had a few, but this is pales in comparison to what's going on here. But you guys can't see out of the camera range. I mean, we got a lot of boxes of shoes. That's just amazing. We're deep in. Yeah, I believe I have a couple of the. I think what was it, the LA map one? I think.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to dig in. You're gonna have to come over, you guys, and help me dig through the garage and
I would
see
love
if
to
there's
do that.
anything that's got any value there. We'll see.
Remember
Don't just say it, 'cause I mean it. I'll be there.
Remember on It's the Shoes where Bobito was with someone and he goes, "Yeah, I live right there." Remember that? Because I think they did a New York City map or something. Anyway, very cool. Okay, so let's keep it moving. In your opinion, Drake, what have been your biggest contributions to footwear? Does anything come to mind? You've had a hand in many projects. Very fortunate to have led teams and product and such. You're very humble, but I'm going to take the opportunity. But what comes to mind is we have some products here. Go ahead and share.
Obvious number one would be the flight logo. And yeah, maybe you can show that up there. Yeah, I can tell a little story about just how this came into being. I was working in apparel, and like I mentioned, apparel kind of had their division in this one part of Beaverton, and a few miles away was a footwear group. But there came a time where we were trying to create three silos, Air Jordan kind of as its own, because it kind of had Air Jordan Flight were kind of combined, especially in apparel. And then there was Force and Flight. And so they needed they had the Jumpman logo, they had that Flight script. And then they had this new Force logo that was designed. And the Flight logo at the time was that script that might work great on apparel, but it's such a slender script that it's not the easiest thing to put on the footwear.
Is this like the Air Flight 89 tongue?
Yeah.
Flight?
Yeah.
Was it Mr. Sandstrom? I can't remember.
Possibly. You probably know more than I do. I think that's right, that he designed that original script. Beautiful logo, and it really represented Flight. But I think the brief came in that, like, okay, we're going to create these silos, and we needed kind of a new update on the Flight logo. So I worked on some concepts, and the brand team works on it. There's, as a product apparel graphic person, you kind of have a good understanding of how these logos are going to have to be used in a variety of ways: labels, embosses, woven labels on the tongue top. They can be really scaled down to really super small, or they can be big on a sweatshirt as a tackle tool applique or something. So I think it helps when you know kind of the end use for these logos. And so going in, you're trying to, of course, cater to that, understand that, and make sure that whatever you come up with is going to work for all these different types of applications and placements on different products. So I think that was for the brief. I came up with this idea. I did a bunch of research around just aviation, and at the time, like Concorde was flying back and forth from U.S. to Europe, and had this triangular shape. The stealth bomber had this triangular shape.
The swept wing look.
Yeah, and I think it's the Blackbird. I don't remember.
SAR 71 Blackbird.
Yeah. This is aviation. So
that would fly at like 70,000
eagles, and I'm like, okay, got to do something with a triangular shape. And I think we'll have a reference image that you can show of kind of some of the research that I did and how those kind of visually came to life. And basically, just this kind of shape was like that seemed to represent speed, flight, aeronautics. Yeah, and so it was like, okay, so I started with that, and then I just started kind of carving out kind of the shape of the F, and the nice kind of Futura flight spaced out above it. Just felt, it almost to me kind of feels like when you go to the airport and you just see the name of the airport kind of spread out with the typography. So that's what I ended up doing. It got presented, and that one got adopted. And how it worked then was, I was responsible for applying it onto the apparel, and then it got sent over to the basketball team in footwear. And then they were responsible for figuring out how it got applied onto their shoes according to whatever their brief was. And sometimes it's a heel, sometimes a tongue top. In some cases, you see it where it's debossed into the side of the shoe. Yeah. So this one here, where it's like debossed in. And so, this turned out beautifully. It's just that kind of clean geometric shape lent itself really nicely onto a lot of applications of footwear as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because these are the things you don't really think about. You just see a shoe and you see it, but you don't really think of all the effort it takes to make it look that way. Similar to music, you just listen to the song and you're like, oh, it's a good song. But all the things it takes to make the beat right, make the voice right, make everything sound right. It's incredible to kind of hear this backstory of how this whole story came together. And I didn't realize the stealth was a little bit of the inspiration.
Yeah.
And it kind of changed the way I look at the picture now. I used to see it as an airplane like this, but now I see it as an airplane flying to the left. So it like messed up, but it converted my whole view.
Yeah, well, when I've told the story recently, people are like, they love the logo, they didn't know the story behind it, and then it's just like, oh, it's way kind of more, just so much richer to know that's the story behind it. As far as your question, just like my contributions and yeah, I think then I was in Europe for 6 years working dedicated to a lot of our soccer kits for Dortmund and Arsenal and PSG and those teams. Came back to the States in '96 and continued in apparel. And it wasn't until around 2002 I joined up with sportswear, footwear, and I was learning the whole art and craft of footwear, all the parts of a shoe that I had to learn vamp versus a midsole versus the eye stake and all that stuff. It's like a total immersion because I'd spent all my career in apparel. Fortunate at the time to then start working on some amazing vault and limited edition product. So had some, fun contributions there. And that was an amazing time after all these years in apparel to, you know, it's funny because people think of Nike as footwear, the sneaker company. So, nice to be able to contribute on that side of it as well after all these years in apparel.
Yeah. I would say one thing about the dynamic flight is that the color, or it's a master class on logo placement. Actually, pass me the black and red. So this pair has so many logos on it, right? It's got the 33 on the heel for Pippin. It's got the Hirachi logo because it's got the T design. And this is Tinker's sort of principle from the 90s to put this type of insert in it. So it's got a Hirachi component. The inside liner has all these Nike things, including, I believe, your flight logo is kind of mixed in there in some ways. And then it's also got the flight logo on the back. So it's a little bit of a master class on how to embroider a shoe, how to put the stamp on it, and then even how to make it for the player, like take it to the next level. So this shoe is incredible in terms of placement.
And never has received a retro treatment as of yet. Not sure if it will.
But
yeah, exactly. It's personally one of my all-time favorite Tracy Teague designs. Ranks very highly in the upper echelons for vintage collectors like ourselves. Fab Five, in terms of sport culture. I hope
that Michigan was wearing.
They wore the white colorway. Jalen did and his crew. But I hope that it, as the expression is, tickled pink, and even though it's black and red, Bulls color, that your design, has a imprint on some of these timeless and everlasting models. So, very nice.
Thank you.